What is going on, everybody? Welcome into the Fantasy Coaches Podcast. I am your host, as always, Coach Steve. Coach Chips can't be here today. He's sound asleep at this point of the evening here. As you guys know, he's an early riser in the real life world, so he won't be joining us. But on today's episode, guys, we're talking wide receiver tiers part 3. Basically going over some of these guys are probably in the later rounds of your drafts that have upside to possibly be really fantasy relevant this year and maybe give the changing of the tide with a lot of young players we might get into today. So for our guest today, I brought in a guy who's amazing in the fantasy world here, Shane Barrett. What's going on, buddy?
What is up? I am pumped and ready to go for today because wide receivers are honestly my favorite position. So I love getting to chat wide receivers.
And that's exactly why I did it, honestly. Come on. I just happened to know that this is why your favorite position. He's like, this is the perfect episode for you to come on to. But
absolutely.
Now, we appreciate you coming on for sure. Since you never haven't been on a guest on our show yet, let everyone know kind of what you do in the industry and where they can find you on social media.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am the co-founder of the Fantasy Football Collective. You can find us on Twitter at FF_collective. That's KOLLECTIV or www.ffcollective.com. I'm also the co-host of the Fantasy Nightcap podcast, which we record Monday nights and typically release Wednesdays or Thursdays. So we've actually got an episode coming out tomorrow. And then I'm our dynasty writer for Going for Two and the host of Collective Knowledge, a show to get to know people in the fantasy football industry. So fans, analysts, fanalists. So just trying to help people because I wanted to get to know my fellow analysts and kind of like how they got started, and more of playing, not even just being an analyst. And so just started the show live on YouTube because I was like, let's just start asking people these questions, and then we do a rapid fire round. So that's a lot of fun. But yeah, that's me.
Yeah, absolutely. That's pretty cool, honestly. I didn't know you did so much in the industry, so that's pretty awesome. So if you guys aren't already, those who tune in tonight, give them a follow. Check out this stuff, man. Just do it already. So again, we'd like you guys for tuning in at some point. I know it's a little late, especially on the East Coast here, maybe for some of you. But
sorry.
No, it's okay. It's okay. I'm up anyway, so I don't hate it. I usually don't go to bed until midnight, so might as well talk about some football this late at night. So
absolutely,
watching TV. That's all I was really doing. So, like I said, guys, we're talking wide receiver tiers part 3. If you've caught the first 2, it's kind of the same way. We basically go off Fantasy Pros, ADP, and I kind of come up with tiers based off the ADP. I kind of group them together to some extent. So, gonna go through them. Like I said, these are the wide receivers 5, 6, and 7s on your team. Guys who could end up being real valuable if you get them late in the right situation. So we'll start right at the wide receiver 5s. And that's the wide receiver 5s tier. It's pretty self-explanatory here. This tier involves Marvin Jones, Devontae Parker, T.Y. Hilton, Marquez Callaway, Elijah Moore, A.J. Green, and Russell Gage. And this is an interesting tier because there's some vets, some risers recently, some guys people probably don't want any part of here. So, Shane, I'll let you kind of pick your person here. Which guy intrigues you the most in this group here?
Ooh, intrigues me the most?
Yes.
That is probably, just because you use the word intrigues, I'm going to go with Callaway.
Yes.
So, Callaway to me is a very intriguing player because Michael Thomas is out for 6 to 7 weeks at a minimum is what we know right now. With it being Michael Thomas, who knows what that could actually be. Troutman got hurt. I think it's a minor injury from what I've seen today, so he's not going to be out as long as I originally thought. Thank God, because I have a ton of rostership on him. But then their other tight end, I think Nick Vannett, who's a veteran presence in the league, also got hurt. And so there's a lot of room for Callaway to step into production and volume here because I think I'm assuming, like most, that Traquan will kind of step into that wide receiver 1 role But because of that, he's going to get the most double coverage, leaving the door open for someone like Callaway to kind of step up. And when we've seen him, he's been pretty good. So he's the most intriguing player to me. Now, I mean, if you don't mind, I'll quickly kind of break down my thoughts on the rest of the guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we'll go from there, I guess. But Marvin Jones Jr. is someone that, after watching the preseason, is someone that I'm targeting later, especially in redraft, because Lawrence seems to have a connection with him. That's Devontae Parker, right?
Yes, Devontae Parker, yes.
Okay, Devontae Parker, T.Y. Hilton, and A.J. Green, I'm not touching. Can't stand those guys. Parker, you may or may not enjoy this as a Dolphins fan. I don't know. But to me, Parker's breakout wasn't real in 2019 because everybody was hurt. It was literally Parker and Gesicki were the only two options on the field to throw to. And it took him 5 years to finally do something, and it took the entire team getting hurt. So not a Parker fan. I'm also part of the Preston Williams fan club. So that's where my alliances lie in this Miami wide receiver room. T.Y. Hilton, he had a better year last year. He's still old, still has an injury history. I'm not touching him. Same thing with A.J. Green. Not touching him. Elijah Moore, absolutely love him. He could be a league winner, I think, because he's that talented, and they're using him so far from camp and practice the same way he was used in college. And that is moving him all over the field, having him run different routes, and getting him the ball in whatever ways that they can. Russell Gage, kind of similar to Callaway, I think, has a lot of upside, and we've seen him perform well in that wide receiver 2 role when Julio was out last year.
All right, I like the breakdown a lot. Okay, so if you had to pick between Parker, Hilton, and AJ Green, which one of those would you pick if you had to?
Oh, if I had to, I'd probably go Hilton.
Hilton. Because I'm on the same page with you, honestly, when it comes.
Yeah, I think I would have to pick Hilton. With Parker, there's too much competition there now, because I mean, Preston Williams is still there. Albert Wilson is having a great camp. I think Isaiah Ford, I saw a tweet where they're like basically pencil him. Huh?
He got cut on Tuesday.
Isaiah Ford did?
Isaiah Ford, yeah.
Oh.
But I'm sure he'll be back on the team in like 2 weeks because that seems they always seem to just re-sign Isaiah Ford all year.
Well, that's interesting because I saw a tweet where they're like pencil him in for being on the team. So, but still, those are like the bottom kind of wide receiver 3, 4, 5 on the team with Parker. And then you've got Fuller and Waddle. And Waddle is, I think, from what I've seen, is going to be a star. Hilton, his whole year and production depends on his health and Carson Wentz's health. If they're both healthy, Hilton could be a steal at this range. Honestly, just because he's still talented. He's just too old and hurt for me. And then AJ Green, I have no idea what to make of the Cardinals offense. It's like I want Kyler and I want Nuke and I want Rondale. And then I don't really want anybody else on that team if I don't have to. So if you're gun to my head making me pick, I'm going to go Hilton.
All right. I don't hate that pick at all because I think I would go that situation too. And I was doing some of my research on Hilton. I mean, his last 2 seasons have been pretty bad. He's also been banged up. He's 31. But if you've seen what he had over the last 2 years now, I mean, he's had some pretty mediocre quarterbacks. I'm not saying Carson Wentz is the God-given life to fantasy quarterback, but the man can throw the ball downfield more often than not. If T.Y. can just stay healthy, there's possibility there. And if you're getting him as a wide receiver 5 on your team, there's room for upside in this offense because I don't think it's going to be just Jonathan Taylor all day. Carson Wentz came there for a reason so they can kind of open up that offense so they're not one-dimensional. And I think Hilton could do something, especially with hopefully Campbell and Pittman stepping up and maybe coverage off of him. That's great. As a Parker guy in Miami, I've always loved him, but he just can't stay healthy. He really just can't stay healthy. There's just nothing that I can see him.
Is there something in the water down there, man?
Don't know. We're not good at drafting running wide receivers at all in Miami, unfortunately. But I'm hoping Waddle is the difference maker. But the injuries just can pile up. I mean, he's played, I think, just 3 seasons of was it 10 3 seasons of 10 games in a season, like 3 seasons of his 6-year career. So he's not likely to play. Marvin Jones, I think he's just a solid player that Trevor Lawrence is going to lean on in there because he is the veteran presence.
Yeah,
I saw a little
100%.
bit of that on Monday Night Football. I mean, he seemed to be pretty good. He's got an AC joint sprain right now, but they said he's fine for week 1. Let's see who else is in this tier. Elijah Moore, I love him. He's an upside play. Like Shane said, he's a league winner if the offense starts going around him, if he gets that connection and obviously heals up. Russell Gage is just a nice wide receiver 5. I mean, he's a bye week filler that will be good some weeks, and that's really it.
Yeah, I mean that.
He's not exciting, but he's a solid contributor, I think, to our fantasy team.
Totally agree with that. I think the weeks that you do have to play him, he'll get you solid flex scoring. Right. At a minimum, I feel like he's kind of a floor guy. He's not. His ceiling is pretty high, but the likelihood of him hitting that ceiling is lower. But his floor is still pretty high too.
Right, and that's how you kind of want to put it there. I want to go back to Callaway real quick because obviously, he's had 2 amazing preseason games so far, and he's been raved at camps. The competition, you kind of already mentioned a lot about him, but how early are you taking a guy like Callaway right now in drafts?
Ooh,
and 12-man leagues, regular scoring kind of settings. How early do you take him now with this rise?
Great question. Let's see where he's going on Fantasy Pros. He's going at wide receiver 58, 173.
Puts him around 14.
Around 14. I'd take him there. I might be willing to take him around 12.
I saw him in the draft last night go around 11.
Yeah. It depends on how, like, this is my cop-out answer, but it's the truth too. Like, it depends on how my team's built. Like, if I've got 3 or 4 stud wide receivers paired with 2 decent running backs, I'll take a flyer on Callaway earlier than I need to. Because like we talked about, the potential for volume and production is there, and we've seen the talent so far.
Right. I think I'm on the same boat with you. I think, personally, I think round 12 is probably the earliest I'll go right now. If you're drafting, obviously, right now, because Jameis hasn't been announced the starter, if I'm not mistaken, just yet. I mean, he's probably going to be. Let's be real. But just in case that doesn't happen there, I think round 12, I think, is the earliest I would go right now on a guy like that because he has that upside. But there's a lot of unknowns with that still. So I think that's a pretty solid avenue for a guy like Callaway. So,
yeah.
All right, and so let's start over to the wide receiver 6s. The top half, I just split them in 2. This is kind of hard to really give them real tiers at this point of the in the AVP in terms of wide receivers. So this tier involves Emmanuel Sanders, Randall Cobb, Jamison Crowder, Sterling Shepard, Jacoby Myers, and Rashad Bateman. It's not a great tier, honestly. It's a tier you probably want nothing.
Ugly.
So which of these players, if you had to pick one, obviously right now, would you prefer?
There's only 2 I'm taking out of this list, and it's the last 2. Myers and Bateman. Myers has true, not wide receiver 1, like top 12 potential, but wide receiver 1 on his team, at least. And then Bateman, like, with the injury, if he comes back sooner rather than later, then you're getting one of the best rookies in not the best situation from a quarterback standpoint, but from a volume standpoint, he should see a ton of volume if he's healthy. So really just got to get Bateman back from injury, and Myers, like, we've seen his connection with Cam. If Mac Jones ends up winning the team, there's still, like, their 3 wide receivers are him, Aguilar, and Bourne. And to me, they're all kind of the same level of player. Like, I don't really see them having a world beater wide receiver. So just off of volume, I think Myers will get you some decent production here. Sanders, I got nothing. Cobb, it's a great feel-good story. I'm glad he's back with the Packers as a Packers fan. But I swear, if you hurt my Amari Rodgers shares, I'm gonna be pissed. Crowder, like, is he even still with the Jets? Because I haven't heard anything about him in
still
camp
on the Jets. He
anything.
his contract to stay there.
And then Sterling Shepard is the wide receiver 3 on that team behind Galladay and Darius Slayton or Kadarius Toney.
Yeah, I think you kind of summed them up pretty good. I mean, the first 3 I really want nothing a part of, honestly, in fantasy this year. I mean, they are what they are at this point of their careers. It's not something that there's no upside in any one of their games, I don't think.
No.
Cobb is, was never a guy who was a 1,100-yard wide receiver consistently enough. And even when he was in Green Bay, Sanders is 34 and fighting with many targets in that offense there. Jamison Crowder, I mean, he's someone who hasn't been able to stay healthy either. And Elijah Moore has been a guy who's been trending upwards, taking over possibly that slot role at least before midseason, if that's even the thing. Sterling Shepard, he's just a guy, honestly. Just like kind of Russell Gage, like a lower tier Russell Gage. He's always injured, but like there's times where he can be decent for you.
Yeah,
just
but
when you
never
draft him, it's like he's like a bye-week replacement you pick off all waivers because his matchup is kind of good that week because Kenny G, Darius Slayton's, and Evan Ingram's all probably hurt one week. So that's kind of what Sterling Shepard. He's not a guy I'm drafting. Now, Jacoby Myers is an interesting guy because he's 24. He's still young. I mean, people seem to really like this guy. I mean, he had 0 touchdowns last year, 0 receiving touchdowns last year. So you'd have to assume there's a progression.
Ought to go up, right?
Yeah, it has to go up. It's somewhere there. He had 700 yards. I think it was something like that. There's rumors that Mac Jones might be starting week 1 now. And that could benefit him in that terms because Mac Jones will throw the ball if he can. That's basically what it is. He's not going to run like Cam Newton's going to run. I don't know still. But if that's the case, I mean, Myers has an opportunity to maybe see close to at least solid wide receiver 3 numbers or flex options for you most season. You're getting him at a huge discount right now.
Yeah,
definitely a good target right now. Bateman, again, I've never been a big fan of the Ravens offense. I don't care who's there. I know Bateman has a great talent to his game. That's why he was a first-round pick. But again, I'm probably just staying away from him, especially if he's missing multiple weeks. Unless you have an IR spot and you like the talent enough, then take a shot on him. Obviously, there could be something great out of him. He could be that, Justin Jefferson everyone's trying to push for, but
I don't know if he'll be Justin Jefferson level. Because I mean, we've been spoiled by rookie wide receivers. I can't remember if you and I talked about that on the podathon or not, but we've been spoiled by rookies, especially rookie wide receivers lately. But Bateman presents a different type of talent that Lamar's never had, really. He's had Mark Andrews and Hollywood Brown, but never had a receiver that can really run routes and work the middle of the field like Bateman can. So I think, again, if Bateman gets healthy, that talent and ability to get open with his route running will tremendously help Lamar and that offense flow a little more. So I think based on price, you could end up with a really good player. He's just got to get healthy first.
Right. And I think if you don't have an IR spot, drafting Bateman isn't something you have to do because I feel like at some point in the first few weeks of the season, owners overreact at times and they just drop them. They're like, you know what? I need a producer right now to help me win because everyone wants to win early. And Bateman could end up being on your waivers, by week 4 or week 3, whatever it is. I think he's due back in the beginning of October or maybe even sooner. So if you have an IR spot, kind of hold off if you can. If you want to draft him off the talent, go for it. I mean, you're drafting him in your last few rounds and the potential of him having wide receiver numbers is there, obviously. So it's not a bad play to take right now. So, all right. We're going to take a break from the wide receivers at the moment because I forgot about the news completely. So I figured the news is pretty big stuff going on here because the next couple rounds, again, these are your end of your bench wide receivers at this point. So obviously the biggest news over the last couple of days has to be Travis Etienne out for the season. Pretty sad to see a guy, especially a rookie who a lot of people seem to like this year, kind of fall off the cliff. Not fall off the cliff, but get injured. And obviously he's out for the year. I'm in a 16-man league. I took him as my RB2, didn't realize it until this morning. So I cried a little bit in bed. But I have Christian McCaffrey, so he's basically 2 running backs at this point. So I'll take it. So
especially in a 16-teamer, like that's almost a cheat code.
Exactly. So Shane, obviously ETN's done. But where do you value James Robinson now? Because obviously Robinson was an amazing story last year as a rookie running back. But obviously he's got some maybe competition now in Carlos Hyde. Maybe you could say. He's got maybe a couple carries here and there he may lose. But he looks like to be the main guy again. Where are you valuing him now moving forward?
Well, according to my model for my dynasty rankings, I'm apparently a lot higher on him than I thought. And this is even before the ETN injury, because that's got him at dynasty RB 13, which I may need to tweak that. Let's just be honest. I may need to tweak that. But yeah, I mean, he was RB7 last year, because he was the only guy, and I could easily see him off of volume being a top 12 guy again. Carlos Hyde doesn't really worry me, because I'm pretty sure he's like 30 or 31, and RBs start to decline at 28, and typically their decline is a lot sharper than it is in wide receivers. So with that being said, like Carlos Hyde's 30 or 31. What do you like? I don't really see him being able to produce that much. I don't really care that he has that connection with Urban Meyer. I don't trust Urban Meyer as far as I can throw him, but now that ETN is out, I feel like he's got to go with James Robinson simply based off of talent. And so from a value standpoint, I was trying to look up where his ADP is because it probably hasn't been
James
touched.
Robinson?
Yeah, it looks like he's going RB23, 51 overall. So that's what, middle of the 5th in a 12-teamer?
Yeah, that's about right.
So that's probably a pretty accurate spot. Honestly, I'd be comfortable now with ETN being out, taking him in the 3rd or even 4th round, because we know what his production is. He was RB7 last year, like I stated earlier. So if you can get him in the 5th, rock and roll, man. But if you need some RB help, I'd be willing to take a shot on him a little earlier than ADP says.
Yeah, I'm kind of on the same page. I just adjusted my rankings, I think, this morning for the drafts this year. I think at RB15. Again, that could end up going higher before the season starts, but I feel like it was a nice floor right there to have him at, because, I mean, he's going to see production. He's going to see the receiving work. Carlos Hyde had that one season where he was, I think he had like 70 catches and Kyle Shanahan's offense, but after that, you don't really see him catching the ball ever. James Robinson can catch the ball and do things with it in the backfield there. Again, he's going to see enough production. I think that you're going to be pretty happy about him. And I'm taking him now, I think, over guys like J.K. Dobbins and Dave Montgomery because of his receiving value that I think he can present in this offense here. The offense has gotten better. The O-line had gotten better. Remember, you have a possible franchise quarterback now in this offense here that's going to help open up the passing games that maybe Gardner Minshew could never do, and that's why he's the backup now. So that could also help him a lot too. Again, the offense is going to be a little bit better than it was last year, and he should be able to see better running lanes and just see that reception value that he was going to lose, but now he's going to have there this upcoming season here. So
yeah,
again, I like him in that round 3 or 4 range right now. And again, J.K. Dobbins, I love J.K. Dobbins, but James Robinson, he has the receiving value. I think that Dobbins isn't just going to get this year that we all want him to. So,
no, that's a really good point, and especially with the offense getting better as a whole, because like last year, they had to run it through James Robinson. This year, they don't have to, but when they do, he's going to have more open room because they've got an underrated part of Trevor Lawrence's game is he can run the ball. So they're going to have to account for that. They've still got to account for Chark, Visca, and Marvin Jones, and then James Robinson. So, like, I really, really think that's a good point to bring up is, like, as the offense gets better, his opportunities will get better and hopefully easier. So, yeah, taking him above Dobbins,
And that's a tough one.
it makes sense. It's tough, but it makes sense. But, like, I was looking at Fantasy Pros, and then I closed the tab like a dodo bird. But, like, Gaskin and Kareem Hunt, I think, were the two guys directly in front of him. I would take him over both of those guys in a heartbeat.
Oh, for sure. Let's talk about some other guys, maybe like Chris Carson, DeAndre Swift. Would you take him over those two guys?
Carson, yes. Swift, no.
Okay. So we get a feel where you're kind of at there. Again, end of round 3, beginning of round 4 is where he's kind of going right now. And I think you're getting yourself a pretty solid RB2 in fantasy right now, if that's the direction that you want to go, because he should see the volume that keeps him very fantasy relevant this coming season here. So
yeah.
All right. Let's go over the next part of the news here. Something that hit this morning, which was kind of interesting, and a lot of people had a lot of different opinions on it. Sony Michel got traded to the Los Angeles Raiders for a 5th and 6th round pick that can be turned into a 4th rounder. I think if he does something, if he plays enough or whatever it may be, this coming season here. And Adam Scheffler tweeted, I think at some point, that he can win out the starting job in this offense. And then people always still on the Henderson train. Where are you at on this situation here? What do you think Sony does to this Rams backfield now?
What Sony does to this Rams backfield, what I thought it was all the time anyway. I wasn't really in on Cam Akers totally, even pre-injury, because to me, McVay is a running back by committee guy and kind of plays the hot hand similar to how Shanahan does in San Francisco, to where I didn't really know. And I think Akers' talent is clearly significant or superior to Henderson. But it just seemed like there was still going to be some kind of committee there. And so I was hesitant to pull the trigger on Akers, and then he got hurt, and then it was Hendo's backfield. But with them drafting Akers when they did, they've still got Xavier Jones and Jake Funk, and then they trade for Michelle. So, like, this backfield is just cloudy and murky to me, and Sony just kind of completes that picture, if you will, to where he's not I don't really want anybody in that backfield. I don't know who's going to be the pass catching guy. Don't know who's going to be the first and second down guy. Don't know if it's going to be a Henderson week or a Jones week or a Michelle week. So it's not a backfield I really want any part of.
I like the take there on that. For like me, I think Xavier Jones and Jake Funk are kind of they're just pushed out at this point there. I mean, if they really liked Xavier Jones, I don't think they would have traded for Michelle into that extent. A guy who's got first round talent in his game still there. So I think Jones and Funk are kind of more waiver wire ads. God forbid something happens to one of the other two, which could very happen this season. So keep your eyes on, especially Xavier Jones. I think if Henderson or Sony goes down, Jones will step up in that offense there. Henderson definitely takes a bit of a drop. I still think him as a low-end RB2. I think I had him over guys like Sanders and Gaskins at one point, but I think he's just below those guys now in that range, because I think he's still.
I would have taken. I do not like Miles Sanders, but he still, to me, has more of a volume guarantee. And Gaskin, same thing. Like, I don't believe the hullabaloo coming out of Miami that they're going to use three backs. This is Gaskin's backfield for 65% of the snap share. And so I want Gaskin. I would take Sanders or Gaskin over Hendo pre-Sony Michel any day of the week. I'm
on the same boat now.
and now that Michelle's there, like, it's way too obvious.
Exactly. Well, I say Henderson or Edmonds.
One more time.
Henderson or Edmonds.
Ooh.
I'm still going Henderson. The offense, I have to go Henderson still.
I'm
So that
gonna
puts
go
him at that
Edmonds.
24-25 range.
I'm gonna go Edmonds simply because I think he's gonna get the pass catching work in that offense.
Okay, I respect it. That could be possible for sure. Let's see, where was I? Like I said, I like him as like a low end RB2 still. Honestly, I think he's still going to see close to 200 carries this offense. Sony Michel, he definitely puts himself into some kind of value situation now. I mean,
Yeah,
I don't think we were talking about Sony Michel as a drafty at all the last 2 or 3 months, but now he puts himself in that bottom tier, all right after all the top handcuffs. He's like right after that. It's someone I think you can draft now and will have value in this offense here. Like Shane said, it's going to be somewhat of a committee approach. And I think he will have value as long as he can stay healthy. He looked pretty good so far, this training camp and preseason. So hopefully maybe this is the year he can finally put it all together in this offense here. But back over in New England now, where do you have Damian Harris? Does he rise for you with that or no?
Man,
I'm saying no.
That's a good question. I don't know if I would raise him necessarily, like actually bump him up in the rankings. But what I probably would do is be a little bit more likely to draft him.
That's good.
Maybe, and I like Harris, so like it's not like I wasn't drafting him before. But I might go half a round earlier than his ADP and take him now. Because you can still get him super, super late. So with that in mind, with drafts coming up this weekend and next weekend before the NFL starts, I would take a shot on Harris as an RB2, RB3, especially if you go zero running back. Harris is a good shot that you can take. Because I think you can take him 8th or 9th round, maybe 10th round in Superflex. And if you go that route, and I think he's kind of locked in now for a decent amount of volume. Now, a deeper shot, and you might have been ready to ask me this, Ramondre Stevenson. Now, his value, I won't say it significantly soars, but it definitely goes up. Because now he's kind of penciled into me as the RB2 in that offense, and will probably honestly be kind of a touchdown vulture, which may piss off Harris owners. But I really like that. And then people forget about James White. Like, James White's still there. He'll still be a PPR monster as long as he's healthy. So... But yeah, back to your original question. I don't think it necessarily moves Harris up the rankings, but it makes him a lot easier to draft.
Right. I think I'm on the same boat as you, honestly. I think you can be confident in drafting Harris at this point now, instead of like, well, I like his upside, but we don't know what's going to happen in this offense here. I think you can pretty much say, like, yeah, I'm cool as my RB3. I can live with that. I think he'll produce for you at least week in and week out, or a flex option, or whatever you want to call it.
Totally.
Obviously, hopefully Mac Jones does maybe start week 1. It'd be really great to start his season off there in Miami. James White is just going to be James White. I mean, his role, he doesn't change. I don't think Sony was vulturing receptions from him. I think Sony's had like 11 receptions in his entire career. So wasn't worried about that. But I like you brought up Stevenson. I think that becomes interesting now, because I think that if something happens to Harris, and he's been injured a little bit over his career now in the NFL, Stevenson, again, it's preseason, so don't get overhyped over the situation, him going nuts.
Yes.
He could provide somewhat of a league-winning mentality late in drafts if something happens to Harris, because I think he could produce as a 3-down back, or close to it, a strong 2-down back, if giving that situation. So I'm more intrigued to want to draft him now in those later rounds before, and then maybe he wasn't being drafted. I mean, your second to last pick or whatever, it's definitely interesting now, because what happens if something happens to Harris? So that's kind of why I see Stevenson at this point now.
Yeah, love it.
All right, so let's see what we got here. A couple, like I said, Adam Trautman, we talked about him already, avoided major injury, which is good. Steve Sims Jr. signs with the Bills. Trevor Lawrence.
Ooh, I didn't see that.
Oh, yeah, it just happened today. Steve Sims Jr. signed with the Bills. Could be something for Cole Beasley, maybe. Trevor Lawrence named the starter finally. We all saw that coming. But
did you see my my horrible dad joke about Cole Beasley's nickname?
No, what was it?
Colvid Beasley.
That was good. Yeah, that was good. That's definitely a dad joke, man. I love it. I love it. All right. And the last thing, guys, this was interesting. I mean, it could have been, it was a little bit of surprise to me. But Teddy Bridgewater was named the starting quarterback for the Denver Broncos here. Shane, how do you take that situation? That was going to happen. Does he keep the job?
Does he keep the job? I have no earthly idea. Like, I don't know. Vic Fangio is kind of an idiot, if you ask me. I saw something where at his press conference, he said there wasn't much separation between the two, so they went with Bridgewater. And to me, if there's not much separation, shout out to Christian Williams, C. Williams NFL. He said this: if there's not much separation, then you go with the younger guy. And I completely agree, because to me, we still don't know exactly what Drew Lock is, because he didn't come in until late into his rookie year. He played maybe the first 8 or 9 games last year and then got hurt.
No, he played 2 games and got hurt.
Well, it was 2 games?
He started 2 games and then got hurt and was out for, I think, 4 weeks. And then, you had those Bryson Ripken in there at one point and shit.
Yeah, so to me, you got to figure out what Locke is. And in preseason just doesn't do it for me. You got to throw him in real game situations with his full offensive line, full playbook, full healthy wide receiver core, because he didn't have that last year either, because Sutton was out after week 1. So, yeah, I just think this is a stupid decision. It makes sense because Teddy B isn't going to make those erratic decisions that Locke will. But to me, you can work those out of a young quarterback, and the rest of the team is so talented. Why not have a guy that can give you a shot to actually score 30 versus Teddy B, who's maybe going to give you a chance at 20? And when you've got Patrick Mahomes and Justin Herbert in your division, you need to score 30 a game. And I don't see Teddy B hitting those numbers. So, yeah, Nathan, I completely agree, man. Fields should be starting 110% week 2. The reason I say week 2 is because even though I'm not a Fields truther whatsoever, I don't want to see Aaron Donald rip his head off in week 1. I would like to see him survive. And so week 2 is when Justin Fields should start. And I don't know if Matt Nagy's going to do that, which is just dumb. But we've seen that from Matt Nagy too. So.
Right. And like I said, I agree with you, honestly. I think it's a bad decision. I mean, he's basically trying to play it safe at this point. I mean, Teddy Bridgewater, we've seen him. He's not a bad quarterback. But he's not a good quarterback, honestly. He's just okay. And you saw last year with Carolina, he had the weapons around him, but he couldn't compete with that division. I know the defense wasn't as good, but it's a similar situation with a good defense. Now you have this offensive talent, but you're giving the guy, a Ford instead of not a Lamborghini, but something that's just really I don't know how to describe Drew Lock, but Drew Lock can air the ball out. That's what I'm trying to say, is that you're not getting that from Teddy. You're getting safe plays. It might help Jerry Jeudy.
So here, I got you, Steven. You're getting a Toyota Camry with Teddy Bridgewater.
I like it.
With Drew Lock, you got a Ducati.
Okay, I like
Almost.
that. Good comparison.
Now, the Ducati is clearly not as safe, but damn, it's fun.
Yeah.
Where with Bridgewater, like it's a safe, reliable car. You're gonna get 25 miles per gallon in town, maybe on the interstate get 30. But you know what you're gonna get with that Camry. With the Ducati, though, it's like there's freedom, there's fun, there's adventure there. But you threw the keys back to the salesperson, remember, like, give me the Camry. And it's like, the hell's wrong with you?
I like it. That's a great comparison right there. So, yeah, hopefully Drew Lock maybe starts at some point. I feel like he has to. If they're struggling to throw up points in the first month of the season, don't be surprised Drew Lock gets back in the starting gig. Honestly, so I don't think Teddy Bridgewater is on a heavy, long leash. I think it should be kind of short, and we'll see what happens with that. So,
well, that's honestly what I thought it was going to be if Lock started. I thought it was going to be Locke was going to start maybe the first 4 games, but was going to have a really short leash. And then Teddy B would come in. But so them starting Teddy B is just like a complete and utter curveball for me that I just don't understand.
Nathan, right on that.
Do you think? I don't know.
I think it's true.
I don't know if it's him being a defensive coach that he's leaning conservatively, or that he thinks the team itself, and I saw this in the tweet too, that the team itself is good enough without the quarterback that they could maybe make a playoff run, and the game manager aspect of Teddy gives them a safer shot at that. Whereas if you start Locke, like we've talked about, with his erratic throws and erratic decision making, if Locke throws 3 picks in a game, you're out of that game. And if he does that too much too often, then you're out of playoff contention, and Fangio's getting fired. I still think he's going to get fired because this team is like, yeah, they're good as a team, but like I said, they've got Justin Herbert and Patrick Mahomes in division. They got to play them both twice. And if you don't have the offense to keep up with that, then you're not making the playoffs at all. And that right there is just like case in point that I think you give Locke a shot, but that's just me.
No, I mean, he's trying to save his job. I think he's leaning to that conservative side. I mean, he's a defensive coach. He knows his defense is going to be good, and the Broncos' defense is good defense. Yeah. They have a strong run game. They have the weapons. They just need someone to just not turn the ball over and play a low-scoring game consistently. And I think that might eventually be his downfall if he doesn't switch to Drew Lock at some point. But again, we'll see how it turns out for those Denver Broncos. So, but those are the rest of the news that I missed early on in the episode because I was excited to talk about some wide receivers. So let's get back to the wide receivers now. Got 2 more tiers to go here. And this is the bottom half of those wide receiver 6 here. And this is the Rondale Moore, Sammy Watkins. I can't remember what Brown that is offhand.
John Brown?
John Brown, thank you, yes. Braylon Edwards, Nelson Aguilar, and Christian Kirk. Shane, what are this tier you like? I think you already told me one, but.
I actually like a lot of this tier. The one person I won't touch in this tier is Sammy Week 1 Watkins. But yeah, I like Rondale Moore. I've been joking all offseason that he's the best running back on the Arizona Cardinals team. Yes, I know he plays wide receiver, but he's the best running back on the team. So I think they're going to be creative in getting him the ball, and they should be because he is a very talented player, probably pound for pound the strongest player in the NFL, just because he's short and stout and strong. Sammy Watkins has potential, yes, but my trust factor with him is like through the floor of my house right now is how little I trust Sammy Watkins. John Brown, he's all right. Not necessarily someone I'm going out and drafting, but he may be worth a dart throw. Brian Edwards, I'm scooping him up wherever I can. Because if he stays healthy this year, he's got really, really decent upside. And then Aguilar is almost similar to the Jacoby Myers, where I don't really know who's going to be that wide receiver one on that team. It could be Myers. It could be Aguilar. It could be Bourne. But they're all kind of the same talent level, I think, and do different things. And we finally saw Aguilar not drop the ball. So who says he can't be the wide receiver one on this team? And then to kind of answer Nathan's question, Christian Kirk is, I don't know. I think he's kind of the odd man out, unfortunately. Just because of Rondale Moore being there and AJ Green being there. You know my thoughts on AJ Green, but I still like Kirk, but I'm not really drafting him just because the situation is so murky's not the right word. I can't think of the word, but it doesn't look great because there is so much more competition there now that I don't know if Kirk will see volume enough. And AJ Green does affect that, Nathan. But again, he's got to stay healthy. If he's not healthy, then Rondale Moore and Christian Kirk could easily go to the moon. I think, and you're getting them as a steal. So.
Yeah, I think I'm also on the same page with that. AJ Green is obviously, as long as he's healthy, should get targets. He's going to get more targets, and I think both Moore and Kirk, maybe sometimes Moore takes more. I just think Kirk, like Shane said, is kind of just the odd man out of the situation. I just don't see him seeing a lot of targets unless someone gets hurt. I mean, he hasn't done it yet in his NFL career, and now you see this team get AJ Green, a vet, and a youngster, and more, and you've seen them grab 2 wide receivers the prior 2 years. So there's a situation where like the team just doesn't believe in Christian Kirk's ability to stay healthy or produce to the level they want. So for me, I think Kirk is just a guy you don't really want to go after. He may be a midseason pickup if something happens, but yeah. And with Moore, he's interesting. I'd love to take a shot with him because I'd love to see how they use him in this offense. I think that's like the key factor when you think of Rondale Moore, is that he's going to be used in different ways in this offense. It's not just clearly a wide receiver. He may get in the backfield. They might let him all over the place. And so he's definitely in this area of the draft, late in your rounds. It's definitely worth a shot. Sammy Watkins, definitely don't want any part of. John Brown, I really don't want any part of John Brown, honestly. I mean, he always gets hurt at some point during his season. I think the offense is going to run through the young guys. I think he was just brought in as a veteran presence there to have in that wide receiver core that they didn't have already. Yeah, they have a lot of young guys. They have Edwards, they have Ruggs, they have Hunter Renfrow. So they had a lot of young guys. So having just a presence in there, I think, will be good for them. I just don't think John Brown's fantasy relevant. Aguilar, he's just a guy, honestly, to me still. I mean, he had a nice rebound season, but again, he's in this tier for a reason, and I think it kind of just makes sense right now. Edwards, he has an opportunity to really take the next level. Obviously, a lot of people liked him last year. It didn't work out, unfortunately, but he's being raved by many people in camp. He has an opportunity to really take that next step, and I think in this part of your draft, as your 5 or 6 wide receiver, he's worth the shot, because if he doesn't produce off the first few games, that it's not going to happen. If he doesn't see 5 or 6 targets in back-to-back games or something like that early on, you just cut him at that point. But he's worth the risk because he could end up producing as their wide receiver 1 over Ruggs. Maybe not over Waller in terms of pass catchers, but as their wide receiver 1 this coming season here. So I like him a lot. And over to the final tier of the wide receiver 7s now. This has basically all the young guys here. And this is Amon St. Brown, Terrence Marshall, Jalen Reagor, Nico Collins, Gabriel Davis, Traquan Smith, Kadarius Toney, Alan Lazard, and Darius Slayton. Basically all guys under 25, I'm pretty sure, 24 at least. Who's your favorite out of this group here?
Ooh, my favorite is easily Amon-Ra St. Brown. The way I have been kind of projecting Detroit's offense is it's going to be TJ Hawkinson, target hog number 1, DeAndre Swift, target receiver number 2, and then we don't really know. And Amon-Ra St. Brown is such a talent that he could very easily be the wide receiver 1 on this team. and be that Cooper Kupp role for Jared Goff in Detroit. So yeah, I absolutely love St. Brown. But all of these guys are really like, if you can get a couple of these guys on your squad later in your drafts, I'm all over it. Like even Rager, I'm still in on Rager. Because he's looked pretty decent in camp. Nico Collins, that team's going to be really, really bad. The only thing that makes them potentially better is if Watson does play, and that brings Collins' value sky freaking high.
He
But
jumps like a good 2 tiers for me.
if he doesn't, that team, like, there's no one else outside of Brandon Cooks on that team that's worth a darn. So I'd take a shot on Nico Collins. Gabriel Davis, I really like. Unfortunately, they just keep bringing in veteran receivers to kind of stick over him, and so that's concerning to me. Tre'Quan Smith, we talked about earlier with Callaway. I think he's going to step into that wide receiver 1 role for the team, but not necessarily. But his production may be limited just because he's going to get doubled. Tony, I have no clue, man. Like, his draft capital is gorgeous. Obviously, he's a first-round pick, but everything I've seen is like his attitude and his work ethic has just been absolute garbage. And that scares me, especially in New York. Like, that media will eat you alive if you aren't doing what you're supposed to and producing like a first-round pick. So I'm concerned about Tony. I'm not going to give you my true thoughts on Alan Lazard other than I'm not drafting him. I'm just going to leave it at that. Slayton, I love the guy. I'm an Auburn fan. He's an Auburn alum. I think Galladay coming in actually helps him because he doesn't have the pressure of being the wide receiver 1 on the team. And he's got the talent. He's just got to be used correctly. And even in his college career, he wasn't used correctly because Gus Malzahn's a horrible, horrible coach. So it's really going to – Slayton could be a steal, honestly, with how late you can get him. Because I think Galladay's presence helps him. I mean, it helps the whole team, but it helps him and it helps Daniel Jones to where Daniel Jones could have a significant rise in value. I want to be very careful here. I don't think that it's going to be similar to Josh Allen's rise, but the same type of effect, if you will. Like, Daniel Jones taking that next step could very much hinge on the fact that Kenny Galladay is there. Because when you saw Josh Allen get Stephon Diggs and have somebody that's always open because he's that technical of a route runner, that made Josh Allen's game go to the next level. Galladay isn't the same type of receiver as Diggs. Not the same route runner, not the same separation, typically a 50-50 guy. But that threat of that talent level, I still think helps Jones' game go to the next level.
All right.
And that opens up the field for Slayton, Tony if he gets his act together, Sterling Shepard if he's healthy. So, yeah, I and then Marshall, like I didn't even talk about Marshall, and he has the potential to be the best one out of this group. That receiver room is just crowded, and it will depend on if Sam Darnold is the Sam Darnold that we thought he was when he got drafted, or if he's the Sam Darnold that we've seen in New York.
That's a great way to put it there.
And if he's somewhere in the middle, then Marshall has decent value, but not as good as it could be.
Right. I think his value could have gone up if, say, Robbie Anderson or DJ Moore, one of those two weren't there. You'd be talking about him as that like wide receiver 5 range. With Terrence Marshall, again, he's definitely an upside pick. Maybe something happens in this offense here where they get things kind of going. I mean, if Teddy Bridgewater can make almost 3 wide receivers fantasy relevant, I mean, I know Christian McCaffrey really wasn't there, but maybe he has a chance this year. Yeah, that's definitely a big part, probably why. I mean, he has a chance still. We'll see how that works out. I'm not like going out of my way to get him, but if he falls to me and it's like, you know what, I'll take the shot and see what happens. That's kind of how I'm viewing him this coming season. Dynasty, he's a great value. And, Amon St. Brown, I mean, you're looking at it, Perryman and Williams can't stay healthy. They're veterans. We know what they've been able to do in their career at this point.
Which isn't much, honestly.
It's not at all.
That's why I'm so excited for St. Brown is like, everyone's like, well, don't forget about Perriman and don't forget about Tyrell Williams. And it's like, why? They haven't done anything to make me be like, ooh, Detroit has a bona fide wide receiver 1 on their team. Like, if they do, it's St. Brown.
Right. I mean, Perryman had that one stretch of games where he was amazing with Winston. Outside of that, it's been nothing. Terrell Williams had one good year in LA or San Diego at the time. He had one decent season with the Raiders at one point where he had like 6 straight games with a touchdown and then got hurt. So, I mean, they haven't been reliable for you. I mean, you have Cephas, who it seems like he's on the borderline being cut possibly this year.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah, it would suck if that happens. St. Brown is an obvious choice here to go after late. Rieger, like Shane said, he's still a first-round pick. There's still spark there that he could end up playing very well still, so it's worth a shot. Big fan of Nico Collins coming out of the draft here. And, again, if you think that Watson plays, and even if not, I mean, there's some value there. It might not – again, it depends, obviously, if Watson there. It makes it more and less. But he's definitely worth the risk late. If you guys haven't listened to me all off season up through now, I mean, I love Gabriel Davis a lot. I'm really expecting him to take that next jump, even with Sanders and Cole Beasley sitting there. I think eventually youth and talent wins when it comes to this wide receiver core in Buffalo, outside of Diggs, obviously. So I'm obviously drafting him as my 7th wide receiver all day if I can. Traquan Smith, again, he's always just been kind of a guy. Again, if he's going to see the double coverage of the number 1 wide receivers, and that NFC South got some pretty tough guys there, I'm not really looking to draft him. He's just a floor play, I think, if anything. Tony, I probably won't touch him, honestly, as I just don't know what you're going to get from him, and there's just too much in this offense here. He's not like Rondale Moore, where we expect Rondale Moore to be very active. I don't know what Tony's going to give you. He hasn't really played that much he hasn't practiced that much this offseason either, so if he really knows the playbook and his attitude right now, isn't something I want to be near.
Yep.
Lazard, he had his opportunity. He lost it, unfortunately. That's all I'm going to really say. It's Slayton. Shane, I liked your take on Slayton there. It's definitely an option for sure. I'm just concerned that Kenny G doesn't stay on the field enough games for him to not see the number 1 coverage consistently enough.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there might be games where he goes off, but I think it's less than what we hope for, because I like his talent. I just don't know if he's going to. He's a wide receiver too. He's not a wide receiver 1. I think that's pretty obvious. It just depends how much Kenny G plays this year, and he's already hurt, banged up. So it's definitely scary to want to draft him, but the upside could be there for sure. So I like that a lot. And then one last take before we let you go for the night. Just give me somebody outside of the top 72 that you might want to throw a shot at. Oh,
well, yeah, this is complete homerism. It's also a dynasty dart throw. It's Seth Williams out of Auburn. Again, I'm an Auburn fan, so I will own my homerism here. But he had first-round talent. He's got undrafted attitude. And that, I think that is why he fell to the 6th round to Denver. But here's why I think from a dynasty standpoint, he's worth a dart throw. And like I saw my co-host Fox tag me in a clip where he had a catch in the preseason and he had some really good yak. And that was not what he was really known for in college. So that was really encouraging to me as well. But here's why from a dynasty standpoint, he's worth the dart throw. Cortland Sutton and Tim Patrick are both free agents after this season. So then the Broncos wide receiver room could very easily, if they don't bring anybody in, which they could, but if they don't, it could very easily be Jerry Jeudy, Seth Williams, and KJ Hamler. And that's a pretty damn good, like that's a ton of upside in that wide receiver room for 2022 and beyond. Seth is like, the reason I believe in Seth is because his athletic profile is unmatched. If he ran a 4.5 40, which again, it's not burner speed, but it's fast enough in the NFL. I think T. Higgins ran a 4.5. Hell, Keenan Allen ran a 4.7. So he's got speed. But then if you throw him a jump ball, I've said this since I started watching him. If you throw him a jump ball, it's not a 50-50 ball. Typically, it's going to be a 60-40, 70-30 ball in Seth's favor because he's 6'3", 218, and can jump. So that right there to me gives him the potential to get on the field, especially in like red zone situations and things like that. So and one of my favorite plays from him last year was where he completely bullied a Kentucky corner and just like grabbed the ball, literally like Kentucky corner's head was here. Seth just grabbed it up here and just took it from him. So Seth is my ultimate diamond in the rough. Just because the first round talent, but 6th round draft capital and not great attitude. So just got to see that attitude and that work ethic show up. Which now that he's being paid, I'm kind of hoping that it does. And especially since he fell, that he's going to be like, okay, he's got a chip on his shoulder and he's got to prove people wrong.
All right. I love it. Nice time in the rough there. That's for sure. All right, guys. We're going to wrap things up tonight, guys. We did over our wide receiver tiers part 3. We gave you an amazing dynasty in diamond in the rough kind of sleeper there. I like that one a lot. I did some Seth Williams take. I liked his tape a little bit there, so like that one there a lot. Shane, before we let you go, let everyone know where they can find you again on social media and, anything you want to bring up right now in your guys' stuff going on.
Yeah, so again, follow me on Twitter at FFShaneB. Follow the collective, FF_collective, KOLLECTIV. And then follow the podcast at Fantasy Nightcap. We actually just added 2 guys to our staff, really 3, that are going to be doing betting content for us. So Chris Bugsy, or I don't know what his full last name is, but we call him Bugsy. And then Varen, I don't know Varen's last name either, but he's Brown Stauskas on Twitter. They're going to be handling our betting content, and their first video came out this week, Collective Cave, where they're going to help you guys hopefully win some money through some betting and prop bets and things like that. So make sure you like it and subscribe to our YouTube page, Fantasy Football Collective.
All right, guys. If you haven't done so already, please do so and check out their great work we got over there. As always, guys, please go check out our website at www.thefantasycoach.com. We got a couple cool articles going on up there right now. Some things to look forward to during the season. I mean, we're getting close to the season. We only have about 2 off-season episodes left before we really hit in high gear for week 1. Some special things coming down the line right now. We will have a strictly dynasty only during the season episode where we'll talk about some college players to look out for, some, just some general dynasty things for the season. We'll have an assistant coaches show, kind of a mix of a lot of cool different things here that we got 2 guys contributing onto that. And then our normal, 2 days a week podcast. So we're going to have a Sunday through Thursday kind of going for you, and maybe Sunday through Thursday going for you consistently. So check that out during the season. We'll be posting some things in the near future about that. So we thank you guys for listening. As always, please go check out our Twitter page over at Coaches Fantasy. If you want to follow me, you can follow me at Coach Stephen P. And tune in until next time, guys. We'll be back Monday talking some more dynasty stuff now. So till then, guys, have a great one.